Give me 1 second. Here we go. Okay. So so the alcoholism, and then you said that is a little stress at work, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of stress. I think that's a small percentage of it. Let me see if I can transfer. Can I try to call you back on my computer?
Sure. Yeah. So what I'm using is my laptop too. Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all give us 1 second quick. We're doing a one-on-one session with a student who is exploring meditation. So I'm asking some exploratory questions. Let me fire up Instagram here real quick. So for those who are new, to meditation,
yeah, okay. It didn't work, but we'll just do this.
It didn't work.
No, my computer didn't like it for some reason. It like wouldn't bring up video options.
Huh. So so you just went to these places that teaches meditation, but they're not specifically Buddhist.
I'm hoping to get some. I really don't know what I'm doing, and when that would actually occur, or if that's something that they do. It was just me like initially learning.
And how long have you been following my teachings?
Probably within the past month.
Oh, so you're new.
I'm a newbie.
So what do we know about Buddhism so far?
So I did I couldn't name everything, but I get the gist of it. I need to study it again. Maybe that's a good starting point. Like the four noble truths. I think there's there's enough like the 8 steps.
The Eightfold Path.
Yeah. And and I'm doing these kind of things like impermanence, your sense of self, all of them.
Tony, are you near your Wi-Fi box? It's cutting in and out. Are you near the Wi-Fi box?
Yeah, it must too close to. I have like 3 computers in front of me, so it distorted.
So, what is meditation to you? What do you think it can help you with?
Well, for one, I think it could calm my mind, like my thoughts that seem to run rampant. Kind of lasso those a little bit, slow those down. And like some of the impulsive, like drinking when I think I could have the willpower to stop that or choose peace over suffering.
You said drinking when you're bored?
Yeah. And sometimes it's like a way to connect with my wife. It's a bad habit that we developed over the years. Like after a stressful day, you have a couple drinks, and it got worse over the pandemic for sure.
What are we doing? Are we exercising? Are we any of that self-care routines?
Yeah, so I do CrossFit 3 to 4 days a week. And I have like a Peloton bike. So I hop on that like maybe once or twice a week. Do walks. Now that it's cooled down in Texas, it's too difficult when it's 100 degrees.
I'm gonna grab some tissue for a second. You gotta sneeze.
Sure.
Trying to wrap up this bronchitis. Goodness gracious. Okay. The Four Noble Truths resonated with you, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And actually, so you mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy. I know enough to be dangerous on that topic. I'm not actually a therapist. I'm like a researcher. But I see similarities in CBT and like some of the Buddhist practices, especially around like mindfulness. Like your thoughts lead to emotions. Emotions lead to actions.
You hold a degree in psychology. Have you studied positive psychology?
No.
The study of happiness. Are you aware that is a branch of psychology?
Yep.
That'd be worth taking a look at to improve positive psychology. Yes.
That was my focus was inferential statistics and research methods.
Research methods, longitudinal studies.
Yep.
Cross sections, sample sizes, and all that, control groups.
All that fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
I'm just taking notes here.
Oh, you can always go back to the recording. So you can. You're a newer student, so I'm just dancing the dance with new students. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Basically, some of these questions are exploratory questions, and throughout this progress and process, you are to take notes and a journal so that you measure your own progress to see, in fact, Buddhism works out for you, how well it's going to contribute to your well-being and quality of life. Particularly being a researcher, because that's what all of us monks are, researchers.
Okay.
All of us monks are a bunch of bald-headed scientists running around with paper, trying to prove the Buddha wrong. That's what we're trying to do. That was an open invitation that he gave to all monastics and everybody involved, is that do not take his words based on blind faith, and that you're to test out every single thing that he says and whether or not you do in fact achieve peace. So tell me a little bit about the definition of suffering.
Well, the easiest one for me, I guess, is the anxiety that I feel. So it's temporary. well, I guess it's always there, but the severity can increase a lot, especially after I returned home from combat. The anxiety was definitely more pronounced than before I went. So I've taken medication to slow some of the anxiety, or dampen some of the anxiety, and that's had different effects. Like emotional blunting. It feels like you're trapped in your own body, so that's kind of like its own version of suffering. Actually, I dislike that more than I'd rather have the anxiety than the emotional blunting. Intrusive thoughts, like not quite to schizophrenic level, but so much so that it interrupts your day. That feels like suffering to me.
What are those intrusive thoughts? What are they like? Give me some examples.
So one would be like, did I upset this person? Did I say the wrong thing? It could be different contexts. It could be like work. It could be at the CrossFit gym. I did something awkward socially, and these go round and round. Sometimes, not always. Some days are worse than others.
Are we making irrational decisions, actions that leads to these follow-up thoughts, or one has to take certain actions?
Sometimes.
Are these conscious level actions, or are these actions that we're not aware of as it happens?
I'm not sure about unconscious or subconscious level, but on occasion, conscious. Like, I take ownership of whatever I'm feeling, and I test the waters to see if that's true. Did I really upset this person with something I said? So I don't know. So I guess having the thought could be irrational, could be considered irrational if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that didn't actually exist, only in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Any examples you'd like to give the context?
Let me think. Oh, this is one. So I work out with it's a family. It's a like mother, 2-daughter family, and I've known at least the mother for a long time. I would say 4 years, and we have good relationship, and they're very fundamentalist Christian. And I remember, I see her posts on Instagram a lot, and then I noticed her daughter popped up, and her daughter is great. She's like, I think in her 20s. She owns her own business, and I connected or tried to connect with her on Instagram, and then I realized what I'm doing could be, and maybe this is irrational, could be considered offensive because they're fundamentalist Christian, and they might view, a married man connecting with their daughter as bad. So I quickly removed that pending notification, and then I got as far as testing the waters to see if I didn't want to offend the mother, but I kind of talked about social media and mentioned I abuse it, I don't use it to its. I don't know. Actually, since you came into the feed, I've been following you more than having some of these silly little mind games with myself. And it's usually related to like alcohol too. So I'll do something that I wouldn't normally do. When I'm not drinking, so I have the regret, some more suffering the next day. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Any concerns, any personal concerns in regards to the thoughts and actions leading to morality and ethics day-to-day basis without alcohol?
No, I think alcohol is definitely the one that creates those problems.
Got it.
Um,
So without alcohol, you are a good law-abiding citizen.
Right. For the most part, I would say 90%.
I love. Okay.
I'm speeding when I get frustrated in traffic, but otherwise I'm good.
So there's also the identification of anger, the existence of anger.
I do have an anger issue sometimes. It's definitely more pronounced with alcohol, but and that's something I've worked on over the years. Like it's taken me years to get to where I am now with anger. Processing it more effectively. I'm not quite 100%, but I'm much better than I was years ago.
Okay. All right. Let me see what else. You see where I'm going with some of these questions is to explore how the mind is not good to you, how your mind jumps all over the place, how the mind leads you to do things, how the mind leads you to be bored. And I'm sorry, this is a priority call from a monastic. Let me grab this real quick. Dạ chào sư cô. Dạ sư đang thuyết pháp. Dạ. Dạ sư cô cứ nói đi. Dạ. Dạ hiểu. Dạ. Bây giờ nó bận rồi, nó không có nghe. Ok rồi, okay. Có gì một chút khoảng 1 tiếng nữa sư gọi lại cho sư cô nhé. Ok. Bắp hả? Bắp hả? Ok. Hai dĩ. Ok rồi. Sư hiểu rồi. Dạ cảm ơn sư cô. Yeah. It was a Buddhist nun that needed corn for the temples, monasteries, vipassana meditation training. I tell you what, this is why I'm not associated with any monastery, because as soon as they find out I have assistants that is always with me, they use my resources. So I'm sorry, I apologize. But I have to every time when monastics call, I don't know what it is that someone's dead or we need to go to a funeral or a hospital. So that is not was not the case. So I'm right now in Theravada Buddhism. This is the school of the elders, the original school of the elders. we are very psychological. We are very analytical when it comes to tracking and pinpointing target specific into what your mind is doing, how your mind is behaving, and how it leads you to suffer. So these were the questions designed to bring that forth, so that I can understand the student better where you're at in your life. Let me see here. So so there's the anger, and then there's the alcohol, and then the alcohol leads you to make you a little awkward. just like everybody else, every human. Alcohol makes them awkward, makes them a mad drunk, a crazy drunk, a funny drunk, and all of
Right.
that. Anything else you'd like to share? Anything else you feel comfortable sharing that would help me?
So for some reason lately, so I mentioned a difficult upbringing. If you're familiar with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, I would score high on that. Like physical, mental abuse, drug use with my parents. So it was a rough go early on, but I mean we have a good relationship now. I haven't quite forgiven on all those things. I definitely will never forget, but it's something that I deal with for some reason lately. That topic has come back up, especially like around my father. My sister just recently divulged information that of some abuse that she experienced that I was never aware of. So there's tension there, and I've had a lot of strange, bad dreams about it. That's my brain processing it, and I'm in the dreams. I'm yelling angrily at my dad for things that he did 30 plus years ago. So there's that, the cloud that's come back up in recent years. Things that I thought I forgot about, still there. Trauma, I guess.
Things that you never addressed.
Right.
Things that were brushed underneath the rug, left unaddressed.
Correct. Yep.
You want to forgive him, rug, left unaddressed.
Correct. Yep.
Do you want to forgive him?
I think so. But it seems the story's not over yet, especially with the recent news, like with my sister. So I'm willing to, when the story is, comes to an end. By then, I don't know if it's too late, because he has some pretty bad heart disease. He's had some serious surgeries, like 3 heart attacks. So he's on borrowed time right now.
That means you have to ask yourself how important and how fast can you forgive, and whether you can live with yourself if he passes away tomorrow without
Sure.
hearing that forgiveness. Have you explored these questions before?
Yeah, and actually I explored bringing those topics up with my dad on 2 different occasions. Well, one in particular that stands out the most. It didn't really go very well. He took the energy and gave it to someone else. So the first time it was him crying to my sister and then apologizing in a weird way. The second time was actually just 2 weeks ago, and he gave it back to me in this like weird passive aggressive way, like here's my will, and like suggesting that here's my last rites. If I die tomorrow, this is the information. I don't know. We got into a heated debate over that. My gut instinct, and it's an anxiety thing, is to be avoidant. Like, why put it off to tomorrow if you can just avoid it altogether? So it doesn't always help me though. I'm not processing anything. I'm just holding on to it. So yeah.
What more information do you want to know about the past that is now re-emerging? Or, yeah, are there specific details you're waiting to hear? Are you waiting for a confession? Or you were at mission?
Well,
Because you're trying to dig it back up? What is that you're trying to do here? This is more of a like a criminal investigation probe.
right. Um, I don't know. It's pretty weird. The way that I present information, and then he counters it with completely new information that I was not expecting. Like abuse that he experienced as a child, almost in an indirect way of explaining. He was just, I behaved like this because this is all I knew, almost like as an excuse, without really taking ownership. I don't really know where I was going with that. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure why it's coming up recently. I thought about that, and I haven't been able to really connect the dots. Things that I experienced when I was 8 years old, I'm 44 now, are creeping up, and I can't quite figure it out why.
It's like a beach ball effect. You hold down the beach ball for so long, one day it has to come up.
Sure.
The pressure, or that's been sitting on the shelf in the subconscious and the unconscious, the psychoanalytic theories of it. It creeps up. What we do with it in the present moment determines the type of peace that will unfold, or lack of peace in our life. It's common, it's common. And how we personalize it too, how we take it personal, and how angry we get at our parents. Would you say that your parents acted based on what they knew, with the time that they had, with the people that they were with, and the resources available to them?
Right.
And it just falls under, that's just how they are, who they are at that time. A snapshot back in 1940 something, 1930 something.
Yeah.
And would you say that there's probably nothing more they could have done to improve the parenting style, the parenting methods, or or we trace back their parents, how their parents were, how they operate, their MO?
Yeah, I'm certain. So both my parents were 21 when they had me, and they didn't have any stability in their life. Like my dad was employed at some low-end blue-collar job. We lived in a trailer park. Like they were scraping by. So I guess they did what they could, and the things that they learned from their parents, which was abuse. That's all that was their tools. So yeah, I guess it's just a product of their parents.
When we see that we are this visitor, this baby that just popped out, subject to these treatments,
Yeah.
and likewise other babies in the world also subject to these type of treatments, similar but a little different, but a little similar. And if we don't take it personal, based on all of the factors and circumstances that we have put together, all of the pieces of the puzzle together, we can see, well, damn, I just so happens to be one of the unlucky child in an unlucky condition, unlucky causes and conditions under this roof with these type of parents. And, so, and this also applies to me. Mind you, I did not have great parents. They would try the best as they could, and so I just want you to be aware of the preoccupation and the personalization of such events. And we can really beat ourselves up by why did it happen? How did it happen? Why me? Why did it happen? How did it happen? Why me? And the preoccupation of that, the perpetual preoccupation of that, causes supreme suffering to no end. And there's nothing that the way how we see it now determines the kind of peace we will achieve,
Yeah.
versus the lack of it. You know, letting go is a trademark in Buddhism, and essentially that's what I'm teaching you how to do, is to slowly letting it go and no longer attaching onto them. You know,
Yeah. I
uh,
know.
I would say like 99.9% of families go through this. This is based on all of the counseling sessions, the thousands of people that I've talked to. You know, and it's like, what the fun part is, if you don't want to come back in the next life and be subject to the same thing over again, you would spear towards sainthood in Buddhism. You know, become an arahant, the highest level of spiritual attainment, so that you don't take rebirth anymore, coming back here with another round of these folks. Or worse, you know, you might not come back white, you might come back black, you might come back Puerto Rican, you might come back Asian. When you study rebirth realms and karma, it's not pretty. You know.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, take take the resources that my parents had and my upbringing, and then change it to me being a black man in America in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It could have been a very different experience.
Because it sucks. It is the identification and acknowledgement that, number one, it sucked. It sucked to be in that household at that time, subject to screaming, yelling, people beating you, people calling you names. You're worthless. You're a piece of you. The whole 10 yards of that.
Yeah.
You know. And it is unfortunate. No child should go through it. And mind you, until this very present day, just today alone, one of my students is under my direct supervision, direct guidance. You know, I get to see his parents unfold over the phone. And the new parenting now is like the toxicity, pure high level toxic, like cancerous type parenting. That'll be another book I'll be writing. You know, the new parenting MO is cancerous and toxic, literally injecting venom into the young minds, literally driving these kids to be homicidal and driving these kids to be suicidal at all cost. That's what's going on with the modern day parenting situation that I am observing. So,
I mean, it's also interesting.
well, if you follow my YouTube, you will see how I help these kids condition their parents to ensure their own peace.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
And basically, I'm teaching them to be young judges, young family circuit court judges. I have 15 years in law and 15 years in medicine. So, in order to ensure their own peace, I teach them how to draw their boundaries. I teach them how to set the tone and do what needs to be done to ensure their own peace of mind. Simply put, these parents are extremely ignorant, extremely arrogant, extremely. I can just go on the whole night about them, but you know, basically teaching these kids to be a judge, and they don't have to live that narrative, especially cultural expectations and cultural narratives anymore.
So why? So what parts of it would you say are toxic nowadays?
Well, so I have a student. The mom is Latina, and the mom, you have to do this. You have to listen to your elders. The mom is very controlling. The mom is very toxic, very unhappy, always complaining. It is not what she says; it is how she says it. That's just, just compounding the cyanide in the oratory skills of a mother. So these kids are just basically, the parents are doing this to the kids verbally, and to my surprise, that these kids do not act out the way that I used to act out the ways that some of these other aberrant kids are expected to act out based on the treatment that they have received in the home. Matter of fact, these kids are surprisingly very patient, very angel like disposition, style, attitude across the human development theories. So it's appalling actually to witness both sides of the table. Um, yeah, you so yeah, it's the world is rotating towards a very not good direction. The trajectory of the parenting skills these days seem like has not changed directly over the past 15 years. The cycle, the vicious cycle, seems to continue very rapidly, and it gets worse by the years to come. The use of language, so I was going to divulge more identifying information, but I'm like, maybe I should not. I don't want to single certain people out.
Sure.
But these kids are intelligent, and they're learning to again set the necessary boundaries and draw the line in order to ensure, and learning to be leaders, because there is no leadership in the home. So they themselves are in, high school, post high school and early college students that, and quite frankly, it's a little biased, just because this is the way how I drew the line in my own family. So in order to ensure my own peace, I had to be a judge. Amongst the many hats that I have to wear in my life, one of them would be hell, hell, Supreme Court judge in this particular family, to ensure my own peace from both paternal side and maternal side, and within extended families. When I go to Vietnam, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. It's the if y'all ain't got no good news, I don't want to hear it. That's it. Don't breathe the word, because if you breathe the word and my ear catches it, I will never see you again when I visit Vietnam. Do you all understand? So that type of authoritative, you know kind of thing. It's because they're very unruly. They don't know how to listen. People don't listen. That's the problem. That's why people fight. People fight in life because they don't listen, and those who listen, they don't fight. The deep listening skills. It's unfortunate that we have to resort to this type of use of language, and a lot could probably disagree with the way how I teach my students to condition their family, operant conditioning and classical conditioning. But it works. It works in my family. I love it. It's going to work for everybody else. And the student himself have already seen results as a direct result of this guidance. So very unruly parents in certain Southeast Asian countries are looked upon that they are actively living Buddhas in the home. So carry yourself like a Buddha, and they have not done that. So you know what I mean? The standards is set pretty high, and they have not done that. So therefore, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get the long end of the stick. We're not playing that game. Not in this generation. Not as long as I'm alive. Or, supervising and watching it unfold. It's not gonna unfold the way that they think it's gonna unfold. So. And a new wave of parenting is coming, and I'm going to write books about it and publish it. But anyways, that was a little off topic here. Wanting to focus back on you. Just observe a little closer. You're going to see how I teach my students to crack the whip.
Yeah, I think it was, at least when I was growing up in the 80s, it was you just left the house. There was no real parenting. It was like you are out with your friends and expected to come back when it's dark out. And then compare that to today, there's concept of play dates, which is weird to me. But I can definitely see the toxic nature to it. I mean, obviously not firsthand, but just what I've observed, through other families. But I'm sure every generation goes through this.
Yeah, it's supposed to get better. The one thing that surprises me is that the teachings of the Buddha has been around 2,566 years ago. It doesn't seem like humanity is getting any better with the existence of this information. It's like we're choosing to be ignorant. We're choosing to be lazy. We're choosing to be lazier, and that we haven't been sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of our darn selves, and
Right.
still operating on the same platform and even worse software than ever before. And we have complicated our lives instead of living simply and living this simple life like the Buddha have taught us. So, my prognosis for the world is quite guarded.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just in the past, 20 years, suddenly we all have access to, maybe not all, most of the world has access to information that was never available before unless you go into a library and learn on your own. But it's overwhelming. It doesn't seem like humans are ready for the 21st century. So yeah, I don't know how it's going to play out either. I do know that I'm really glad social media didn't exist when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a new layer of complexity. You have to deal with your friends, deal with adolescence, deal with social connections with your friends, and then suddenly you have to also, when you're 24/7, online, and multiple platforms with different rules for each. I can't imagine.
I just wanted to add, when you asked about how the parents were toxic, gaslighting and manipulation would top the list about that, and not seeing the true nature as it is, and that they use all sorts of psychological ways to put guilt, the guilt game on the kids. But anyways, this generation is changing very rapidly in regards to the use of social media and how it pulls them apart, away from each other, more narcissistic, more self-centered, more worried about their self-image, value, self-concept, self-worth. It's not good. We're going to see a lot more mass shooters to come. We're going to see a lot more, just murder suicides. We're going to see a lot of domestic related things. It's not good. It's not good at all. So, yeah, I'm the one that's trying to slow down the wheel that has been spinning. You profile some of these things that's happening in the world out there in details, and you realize that it's not getting any better. With the accumulated despair, the psychological effects, just the algorithm alone messes up how they are. The algorithm alone makes them mindless, literally mindless. Like, I tested one of my students. I said, if you get two of these sentences, if you can just remember two of these sentences, you get $100. And I did. I took $100 out. I took my TikTok thing out, and I recorded it, and I gave two examples. I cited a law, just a very simple common law, and I gave two elements that constitutes this law and violation of this law. This is two sentences, just simple. So I waited for exactly about 10 seconds, and I said, give me those two elements again. So it was a memory test, no different than any neurological memory test that neurologists would say, here's five things: a pencil, elephant, golf cart, car, bus, and then, in a couple more seconds, ask, like 30 seconds, so 10 seconds, ask that, and like, pencil, paper, apple, bird. And you realize that these algorithms are taking away the quality of life and the inability to sustain attention and memory or retention. That's really bad. So my job, any local students here is subject to direct super anyone that is under my direct supervision. I'm really watching everything that they do and what they read in the CBT program, what they read and what they can recall. And I'm asking them like, so teach me chapter one. What is chapter one? And they're missing very key elements in things that I am specifically looking for. Likewise, when it comes to the noble truth, there are elements under each noble truth. Mind you, 84,000 teachings are compressed into the Four Noble Truths. So therefore, one has to pay very close attention to small details in the first noble truth alone. And the teacher knows what he's looking for. He's looking for key words and elements that constitutes suffering. It is one of the hardest word. It is the hardest word to define in Buddhism, is suffering. And so therefore, the majority that fail are very, very high. So that is just the algorithm alone. I mean, I can just take the word algorithm and expand a talk of 10 hours. Nonetheless, other elements of social media that affects their mind and how effective and efficient they potentially could be, but it's not. Okay, all right. So let's reel ourselves back on point here. So the thing with the parenting thing is that try to reflect about the dude is gonna die. The dude is gonna die quite fairly soon. You forgive to ensure your own peace. You forgive for you. And he's gonna have to live with whatever it is that he did, said, and done. His thought, speech, and action back then. One of the greatest thing I believe as sons is that we set ourselves aside to do the great thing. And the great thing is to try to forgive them and help them forgive themselves for the mistakes that they have done, for they know not what they do, right? And I think that you will be really happy with yourself, with joy that you did this one great thing, because it's very beneficial for him, both mind and body, and at the moment of death, and from a Buddhist standpoint, to forgive and help those that we are forgiving to forgive themselves. It's one of the hardest tasks, but a challenging task and a rewarding task once it is done, especially for someone who is actively dying. It's just, I think, very honorable. It's very honorable, it's very admirable, and very inspiring if that's something that you're willing to take on the challenge.
Sure.
To put yourself aside, your ego aside, and to realize what, like I said, they operated based on what they know and how they were, a victim of their own parents and parenting style and modalities. They acted based on what they knew, people that they were with, resources that is available to them, and there's nothing more that they could possibly have done. If they were Catholic, if they were Christian, if they were Hindu, just you look at the whole socio pie, the sociology pie, the psychological pie, the individual context, the group context, the community context, and expand that out, and you just see that was their world, that was their reality. So when they came home ticked off, well, these were what they were dealing with during that era, that age, and that stage in times of economy and where our history was in the United States. You look at all of that, forgiving is easier, it's more conducive. We are finding reasons to forgive. Um, and we suffer if we don't do the opposite, if we just fold inwards and just, I can't believe you did that to me. I couldn't believe you were this type of a father. The blame game and just the finger pointing. There's absolutely nothing now that 40 years later, 50 years later, I don't see any benefits in that. It just compounds our suffering, compounds our anger, compounds our resentment, multiplies times 10 after they have died.
Yeah, this is spot on.
And you would be doing God's work. You would be doing what God wanted you to do. You would be doing, all of our great teachers, masters, philosophers, deities, and gods that have gone before us, whether they exist or not exist. That's what they wanted you to do, is forgive and ask for forgiveness. If we look at the Christian context, we're all sinners. No, you look at how Cardinal World says it, we're all sinners. And
I grew up Catholic.
yeah, never tired of forgiving. Yeah,
right.
Never tired of forgiving, and never tired of asking for forgiveness. The words of Cardinal World, Donald World. And yeah, I find that very touching. I find that bringing it back to us being the most beautiful human in God's eye. So try to reflect on that quickly and try to act on that quickly. The problem is we think we have time when we in fact don't.
No, that's fair.
So in regards, yes, go ahead.
Well, I think he had quadruple bypass in 2008, and I think he was given 5 years ish, but he's still around. People in my family are hard to kill. It's like I like to say. I survived combat unscathed physically. So, anything you recommend that I read on? Like you mentioned, positive psychology.
Mm-hmm. From a Buddhist standpoint, study and practice loving kindness meditation. I'm going to. Let me send you the resources for that. There's something specific that I wanted to send, but loving kindness meditation helps that forgiveness. It just really it does. With the anxiety, the identification of anxiety, the existence of current anxiety. If you send me an email, I'll send you the cognitive behavior therapy book. And since you already have a master's, you should be flying over this book within 2 weeks. You should be able to finish within no more than a month, but within 2. But I finished it in 2 weeks. I don't understand why some of these students can't. It's a 10th grade book, 10th grade level reading that one can fly through quite fairly quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I should be donating to your cause for all this help. I know in one of your videos it's give more than you receive, but I think it would be beneficial, and I'm in a good place in life to help contribute.
I teach for free. Never think that you're obligated to make any type of donations. This is my joy of helping people. Though this is this is the same time that I'm trying to finish my book. I submitted half of my book already. My publisher's not happy. But
more?
Well, I've been procrastinating, quite frankly, and I've been prioritizing some of these life-saving programs that's been ongoing for the whole year. But it keeps the programs going. But yeah, it's that's what's right about this tradition. The Theravadins, the school of the elders, is that we teach for everything we do is for free. Funerals for free. We don't charge money. It's not right. It ensures the integrity and purity of the teachings of the original teachings of the Buddha and the original line and monastic code and order. Period. It eliminates the scamming part of Buddhism. Of course, Buddhism also does not escape. Does not. Is also subject to praise and blame, and then you have other traditions that go sideways quickly with these types of things. So that's what's right about this tradition that I chose. So right now, to the CBT the cognitive behavioral therapy, that you should be able to fly through that quite fairly quickly and go back to the basics about spotting errors in your thinking, unhealthy ways of doing things. It's just all the key principles in CBT has direct clinical applications and benefits for the anxiety. That anxiety's got to go. We got to quell. We have to mitigate that anxiety or depression and anger, one, two, three, before we go into meditation. You can't sit and focus on your breath with all these things looming in the background.
Sure.
It's always been, it's always been, it's always been my thing to have this CBT thing as prerequisite before meditating, because again, I mean, I've tried it myself way back in the day, and I got stressed, I got anxiety, I got depression. There's no way I could sit still. I was just bouncing around with ADHD. So when I went through the CBT thing myself as a self-directed study, yeah, just very disciplined, exercising great level of discipline and discretion about my life and how I wanted to get better. I'm now teaching everyone the same method that worked for me. So if it worked for me, I have no doubt it'll work for you. And comes now, years later, now I'm inspiring millions. So one would really have to think, maybe he's doing something right, that, or he's fooling, 1 point something million people.
I did get you one more follower.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, and once, I just want you to fly through the CBT and check in with me. You can check in with me every 4 days or once a week to tell me what you have read, how it applies to you, and how you started to see benefits right away with the CBT. That's how amazing that book is.
Great. I should have started at the beginning. What do I call you?
Venerable's fine.
Venerable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's Venerable, and those who can't say Chi Dao just call me Master T. They get all sorts of names all day, every day. I don't care what people call me. I'm just a simple monk.
Great. I really appreciate you taking time to chat with me.
Yeah. So I kind of, grasp what's going on here, and basically we're moving slowly, thoroughly, and effectively about this. Try to refrain from the beer, the booze. Try to come back to your. Was it Army? What was it? It was Army, right?
Yeah, I was in the Army for 9 years as a helicopter mechanic.
What was the rank before you left?
So I was a specialist, but I was considered because I went through PLDC, which is Primary Leadership Development. They put me as a non-commissioned officer in charge in COIC. So I covered one platoon night shift in Iraq.
So now it's a good time to remind yourself of discipline. There is no reason why someone like you and many others that I have counseled, and I have kids coming back from the Army themselves, or one who is 20 years old, aspired Ranger, just got done with basic and AIT. This is where you have to bring back that self-discipline.
Yeah.
And
it's slipped away in the past 20 years, but the pieces are still there. I had to bring it back to get through grad school, so it's still available to me.
So, the first training in Buddhism is morality. And under morality, there is don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, refrain from intoxicating substance, refrain from sexual misconduct. So under intoxicating substance, one has to really try to refrain it, right? Furthermore, let's talk about uh, leadership and directives, just for the fun of it. I recently coined the term Buddhist cardinal, right? Cardinals used in the Catholic world, and then you have Buddhist cardinals. What does that mean? Well, that means there is about five of us in the world. I'm one of them, and there's other four venerables that very highly influential, um, celebrity monks that very on point with the teachings, very well loved, and with great influence. So I coined the term Buddhist cardinals so that my students would know who they are and when to be under the leadership of one who is. So from a military standpoint, you all can see us as like two-star generals, and above us are His Holiness, of which this this tradition also uses His Holiness, and you also see the Dalai Lama as His Holiness, and within the Dalai Lama's tradition, there's also His Eminence. They also have, a cardinal is also His Eminence over there. So so just if you wanted to switch mode and place this on your head, in your head, and on your head, that a two-star Buddhist general told you to try to refrain from drinking. So out of respect for the two-star general, you would want that to kind of remind yourself that you know he's trying to steer me straight. He's trying to point me towards the right direction. He's trying to get me to succeed in life and truly achieve actual inner peace, liberation, and freedom. So if again, we have to fool our mind into how are we going to discipline our mind? You know, um, in this tradition, we have venerable and most venerables, and they could just kind of stop there. So it's kind of hard to differentiate who is who and who is what when it comes to the rank and file chain of command from the bottom up and from the top down. So I started to classify, certain venerables based on years that they have been a monk, how they lead, how many people they're leading. That way, I tighten up all of my students that when they go to different monasteries, and I tell them, "Say, you see that guy over there? Yeah, he's very much equivalent to a cardinal. So make sure you go over there and you pay your respect and listen very closely of what he has to say and how he teaches." Versus just using venerable and most venerable, that's hard for the brain to just decipher, like what, especially if we all wear the same thing and there's no identifying markers who is more senior than others. So it's a little confusing in this tradition. So again, um, if the drinking has not been working out so well, then it's maybe time to uh, you know relook at it, because it causes all sorts of foolishness in the mind, inability to sustain attention, and especially the discipline thing, and especially if we're bored. One thing about Buddhism, it is everything but boring because there's a long checklist to do. You said you were a mechanic, right?
Yeah.
Helicopter, right?
Helicopter Blackhawk.
Sir, you have a long checklist with helicopters. Yes, safety checklist.
Excessive.
Excessively. In Theravada Buddhism, long checklist towards the path of enlightenment.
That makes sense.
So therefore, it's fun. Actually, it's very engaging. It's fun. I mean, or else I wouldn't be a monk. I would just, if it sucked, I would have said, all right, I'm going to take this off and go back to going to a strip club. Right? The rule says I can just tell one other person that I'm disrobing, and I can disrobe in the next hour if I like. But obviously, it is fun and engaging and on point. And I like it. It poses a good challenge, and it cultivates leadership within oneself, and it points towards the right direction. So I just want you to reflect all of this, that we do have a checklist, and and thank you for being honest, because not a lot of people are honest with me. But to self-admit that one is bored in life, I mean, actually, we all kind of get bored in life when we have nothing to look forward to.
So that's something that it's come up, and actually after getting my master's degree, I'm halfway decent at implementing ideas that I have. or at least developing them beyond just
You froze for a second.
or it's like some sort of goal. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like I'm blocking myself from doing more with it. It's kind of strange. Like I'm getting in my own way.
I have faith that you will actually need someone like me to kind of like,
Okay.
So sometimes in life we get a little complacent. That's all of us actually. And it's good to have someone oversight, and reminding us do what needs to be done, study what needs to be studied, and practice what needs to be practiced, so that we don't, so that we don't become too comfy. And so I understand human behavior. I mean, we all were designed to be lazy. We were designed to procrastinate. We were designed to be anxious. We were designed to be depressed. We were designed to be have anxiety. All of these things. But the Buddha gave a life hack. The Buddha gave me anxiety. All of these things. But the Buddha hack. The Buddha gave us instructions. So. Yeah. So, anyways, let's start with this step first, and we'll proceed. Again, every key things. I want to see how you study. I want to see what you pay attention to, and that way I can measure your progress, and that way you can measure your progress. So keep it going, and record down it is that you have studied. And okay.
Yeah. There's one part that I left out, and I'm not, but it's just this Halloween. There was a meme that was floating around, and a person comes to a Halloween party and they're dressed just in regular clothes, and the person says, "What are you supposed to be?" I was a gifted student. What's that? Well, I was supposed to be a lot of things. That's how I feel right now. Like I'm stuck. So I'm just kind of reiterating what I already told you, but I have the ability to change something in the world, but I'm not doing anything about it. It causes anxiety.
You're doing something about it now.
Yeah, that's true. I am.
That's why we're here. And my job is to cultivate you to be the best you, and the best you that the world has ever seen. And once you have reached certain levels of understanding and comprehension, and once you have reached a certain level of practice, then I train you how to influence the world like the world has ever seen. How do you think, what I've been doing is trying to influence what's happening in the world, be a dent in the big problem you're seeing. So your life can be meaningful. Your life can be purposeful if you go through this program. Simply, I always tell my students that I always try to cultivate them to be the best them the world has ever seen. That is my standards. We're not going to go halfway. We're going to go full, and we're going to go to the top as much as we possibly can. If we fall short, it's okay. We know that we did the best that we could.
You sound like a major general there. You're 2-star.
Well, in my previous occupation, I was actually chief of a security company. So that before stepping down, there was 4 stars on my shoulders. So if I sounded like someone who's in leadership, I've ever been in leadership in my 20s. I was in my early 20s. So therefore, one must know how to lead and put everyone, heads up, chin up, out, and impact the world, and not to be lazy. And I was trying to impact people within my own age. I was commanding young, protection officers that were 19 years old. So therefore, don't doubt yourself. Use all the gift that God gave you, and now let's concentrate that gift and focus on what matters the most and what we need the most right now in the world.
Sure.
Your gift, your talent, your education, your background is what we need right now. So let's try to get better as fast as we can, resolve our own issues, and help others through it. And that's going to be one of the most rewarding and most defining thing you do in your life.
I like it.
Okay. So I look forward to talking with you soon. And send me your email, and I'll send you over those two things: the CBT book and the Loving Kindness Meditation.
Awesome. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Better.
Yes. Yes.
The Buddhist cardinal.
The new terminology. Every title, the more titles that's being coined, the more titles that's out. Oh, trust me, it's a headache for all of us. Way back in the day, I wanted to get my doctorate in psychology, and of course, then they call you doctor. Oh, trust me. Now, the more titles that you hear, the more responsibility that you have, and the more headache that you have. And I was like, oh God. Yeah. The venerable is on vacation right now. But I really enjoy helping people one-on-one, just like like how you've seen I've done with others, and you are no different. I will answer every single call. I will answer every single text message within 24 hours. No if buts about it. I mean, just look at how fast you sent your message.
Yeah, I was not expecting a response, but
now
you sure.
Now I could play the lazy game. I can play all sorts of game, right? Being me, which is. That would be self-centered. Sorts of game in delaying human suffering, but that would be irresponsible. But who would know that? I would know that, and I have to live with that, with the games that I played. But you see here, when it comes to boredom and laziness, is that I have to be the model monk for the younger generation of monks to come, so that they see that Venerable Chi Dao, when he's sick, he still teaches. I mean, just days ago, I was dying and still teaches. I'm sitting here, doing all this with you and still present, on point, fully mindful. So again, this sets the stage for all of you students that, on point, on par is no different than me asking you to go fix this helicopter outside your house right now. Darn it, go get this thing fixed so I can fly out of here and meet the next person.
I'd be in a lot of trouble with the helicopter.
Tony Biden needs to talk to me in the next hour. I need this helicopter up and going. Fuel, everything, line, gauge. So it's going to be fun. Our journey is going to be fun. So embrace the new journey to come.
Yeah, very much so. This is interesting. I appreciate it.
Yep. And if you need to go back to all of it, really miss. So we'll coordinate, and I look to talk with you soon, okay?
You want me to
the messenger is fine. You can go to the Instagram messenger. It kind of keeps it orderly, and you can text me anytime. Either of them. I don't have notifications on Instagram, and so my phone always dings and blings, and all these other things. So yeah, don't ever think I'm too busy for you, ever. I don't want any student out there to think I'm too busy. Wishing question, sure, don't play.
Great.
All right.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You have a good night over there. Take care. Beautiful human beings across the United States and across the world. I look forward to speaking with all of you soon. And so at this time, I'd like to conclude this talk, as I have to attend to other priorities set forth in the night. But with similar problems and similar recommendations. And again, anyone can reach out for a one-on-one. May you all be well, be happy, be free. Sadhu. And Kat, thank you for being so engaging on YouTube. Sorry, I haven't been able to. I see all the messages. I just couldn't, just I had to talk over here, talk over here, talk over here. So, but thank you all and thank you for all the feeds here. I see it all. Y'all have a good night.